Hello, my YouTube friends. Okay, so I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about project management software and Open Project. Look, essentially, I was looking for a way how to manage my daily tasks, my projects, but I didn't want to go ahead and subscribe to like an application such as Microsoft Project or even get like a limited free version such as Asana. So I wanted to actually install something. I was looking for something that I could actually install that was a full-fledged project management software that didn't have the limitations of what I would get with other free applications, right? So I actually found Open Project. Open Project is an open source project management software. You can actually download it and install it on your own system. You can actually use their own cloud service, but that's going to cost you, right? But there are a few pricing options that I wanted to actually show you before we actually get into the installation part of it, because this video is essentially about installing Open Project and how you can actually install it on a Raspberry Pi, right? But let's actually get right into it. So the pricing is really dependent on the number of users. So like, for example, if you've just got, like, if your project plan or if your team is just 5 people, right? And if you want to host it in the cloud, and if you want, so you've got a few options here, right? So let's say you want like a 1 month subscription or a 1 year subscription, right? So there are a few options over here. You've got, if you're going to get it for 1 year in the cloud, and you got 5 users, which is quite a small business we're talking about, but it'll cost you $7.25 per user per month, and that's USD, right? So that's you'll get all the community features. You'll get limited AI enterprise add-ons, and you'll get basic support, right? And so on and so forth. You'll get professional as well, which is a bit more professional support over there, but that's $13.50 per user. And, it goes on, the longer you actually subscribe for it, the cheaper it does actually get. You get a few free months. But if you actually look at other project management software, like if we go to like Asana, for example, right? So if you have a look at Asana, what is the pricing of Asana? So Asana is definitely, you can get a personal one as well, which is you can have 10 teammates, but you have unlimited tasks, which is pretty good. Unlimited projects as well. So Asana is surely a good option to use if you want just something in the cloud, right? It is surely good. You've got a lot of options over here. There is a lot of unlimited stuff, which is Asana is surely good. But then if you do want to go up, you'll have to start paying, and it is still limited. You have 10 people at the max, and there will be limitations for it, right? So if you want to get rid of those limitations, you'll have to start paying for Asana. So I wanted to get something that I can actually self-host, and so that was the idea, right? So that's why I decided to go with Open Project. So with Open Project, you can actually go with on-premise hosting, and that is completely free, right? It's a totally free option that you can actually install it on your own system, and it's got a number of different ways you can actually install it. Unlimited users, unlimited period of time that you can use it, and so on and so forth. So that's what I decided to do. Now, frankly speaking, I like to keep things on 24/7. Right, so I like to use a low-powered hardware that doesn't cost too much to keep it running 24/7. So one of the options are a Raspberry Pi. You do have other options like an Orange Pi. You get an Orange Pi 03. That is an awesome little device. It just costs about 40 Australian dollars, like 25 US. And it just literally, it takes up a 1.8 watts of power. Like that's like nothing. That's like that. It takes less power to power on and keep running an Orange Pi 03 compared to powering up your iPhone, right? And everyone does that. So that's an option. But for today's video, I'm going to be using a Raspberry Pi 4, the 8 GB RAM version. That's what I'm going to be using. But before we actually get into it, I've already got it installed on my Raspberry Pi 4 4 GB RAM version, and this is where it's installed. And if you can actually see, I've given it a domain name as well. So it's a projects.mywebsite.com. That's the domain, and this is really Open Project, right? So if you have a look at this, I can click through a few of these. I'm still learning how to use it, of course, but there's a lot involved in it. It's pretty heavy, but Look, you can actually go to your you go home, and it just this is your welcome page. It gives you some information about my my portfolio and so on and so forth, time and cost tracking, budgeting, and also it's really very detailed software that you can actually use. But just moving forward with that, you can actually go to your projects. So if I go to the project section, it tells me what are my active projects. I've got this one project called Alexa radio station, where I'm going to be deploying a self-hosted radio station on Alexa. I've got another project called my infrastructure project for my website. I've got another one called Media Tech. Then I've got some new project ideas that I've actually got over here. And so it does tell me all the different open projects that I do have. Now this is my new ideas. So this is just a project that I've built out that has all these ideas of what I really want to still do. So my plan was I wanted something that I can actually keep a track of. Keep a track of my projects and things that I want to work on. You can go to boards, and it does give you, like, this is my new ideas board. These are all the new ideas that I'm working on, so on and so forth. So very similar to your standard project management software, right? But it's completely self-hosted, completely free, and you can actually set it to a domain as well. This tutorial video will not cover setting up a domain for it, but it will actually cover installation. All right, so let's actually get started with the installation process. Now, if you actually go to Google and just type in OpenProject Raspberry Pi or installing OpenProject on Raspberry Pi, just do a Google search, you're going to get information. You're going to find this article, and this is part of the OpenProject org. This is one of their blogs that they've actually written, and learn how to install OpenProject on a Raspberry Pi, right? So this is the page you want to actually go, and I'll have the link of this page in the description of this video. Right, so now this is a detailed guide and if you click on installing it, and if you click on this tutorial, you will be presented with the actual steps on installing, right? So that's what we're going to do. Project on Raspberry Pi, right? So that's what we're going to do. So look, what we actually need for this, our Raspberry Pi. We definitely need that's for sure. Our Raspberry Pi. We need an SD card. So I think we need an SD card. So I think that's what we need. If I scroll down, it actually tells us what we need. We definitely need. I would actually go with I would actually go with anything lower. It might struggle a bit. It does take a little bit of time to come on. It might struggle a bit. It does take a little bit of time to come on. It's been flying and it hasn't had any hiccups. So that's flying and it also you'd also require a SD card of 16 GB at the minimum, right? I'm actually using a 64 GB SD card. I'm actually using a 64. And what you really want to do to start off with, what you really want to keep things light and to keep things simple, when you do select your Raspberry Pi operating system, you really want to select the Raspberry Pi OS Lite. You don't want a full-fledged, you don't need the full-fledged operating system, so why would you actually install it, right? We're trying to keep things clean and at the minimum, so we have enough CPU power and RAM for the actual application, right? So let's actually get started with that. Okay, so I've actually just put in a USB SD writer into my USB port, and let's actually bring up my Raspberry Pi imager. So that's what I'm going to actually bring up right here. I'm actually going to move it to my other screen right here. So this is what we're going to do. Okay, so let's select the device. So we are definitely working with a Raspberry Pi 4. That's the device I'm going to select. I'm going to choose my operating system. And as I said, we want to go with a light operating system on this. I'm going to go to Raspberry Pi OS Other. And I'm going to go with the 64-bit version because that'll allow me to use all my RAM. But we're still going to go with Raspberry Pi OS Lite 64-bit. That's what I'm going to select. I'm going to choose my storage. I've got a 64 GB SD card over here. And that's the one I'm actually going to select. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go next. It's going to ask me about my settings, and let's take a look at my settings. So I've got a username that I've set. I've got a password. I'm just going to actually put in a username. I'm going to just call it Pi, right, as the username. And I'm going to just pop in a password. Today 1234, that's a password. I've got a username as Pi, and I'm based in Australia, so that's what I'll select. And I'm going to go and save these details. Perfect. And I'm going to be like, relight apply OS. I'm going to say yes. And that's fine. I do want to continue. And now it's going to start writing. So I will be right back once this SD card is written with Raspberry Pi OS Lite. Okay, excellent. So I'm back now. I have actually flashed that SD card with the Raspberry Pi OS Lite, like I said, and I've got the IP address. Once I've plugged it in, I've taken the SD card, I've put it into my Raspberry Pi, and I've plugged my Raspberry Pi into power and onto a Ethernet network. And I've already got the IP address, so I opened up my router and I found my Raspberry Pi over there, and I got the IP address, which is literally 192.168.8.154. That is the IP address of this Raspberry Pi that I've just flashed, right? Okay, so let's actually go ahead and log into that. So this is the first time I'm actually logging in. I'm going to accept. And let's just make it a bit larger because it's quite small. So I'm going to change settings. I'm going to go ahead and change the appearance. Make that 16, nice and big, so for you guys to actually have a look. And the login that I created was Pi, so I'm going to type in Pi, and the password was today1234, I believe. Yep, that was the password. Okay, great. So now I'm actually in to the Raspberry Pi. I hope you guys can actually see that. That should be nice and big. Now, the first thing I'm actually going to do on this Raspberry Pi, I'm going to go sudo apt update $& and a sudo apt upgrade /y. So this command will actually update and upgrade my Raspberry Pi as needed. Now, before I actually run that command, I want to make sure that, I'm following the steps in this tutorial. So that's the first thing that you really want to do, is make sure that you run these commands. You don't actually have to have a Y over there. You can just have a single Y, but why not? Let's just try doing that anyway. So let's just go sudo apt update Y and a $& sudo apt upgrade and Y. And that I've run the command is going to start updating my Raspberry Pi and upgrading it to the latest binaries. Alright, excellent. So now my Raspberry Pi has done an update and it's gone through an upgrade as well. That did take some time, but I am powering up my Raspberry Pi from like a mobile phone charger. So it might be working at like a little bit lower CPU processor speed than it would normally. But if you use a Raspberry Pi actual power supply that comes with it, yours is probably going to go a bit quicker, right? But that's fine. So look, what I've done is, to recap, I've essentially ran these commands, which basically update my system and upgrade my system. Okay, so now I just wanted to quickly talk about this project. So installing OpenProject, this uses Docker. So Docker is a system that you can actually install on your Raspberry Pi that isolates different applications, right? So they containerize them, and containerization is a great way to be self-hosting your applications, right? So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to use Docker, and we're going to install OpenProject Docker image, right? So that's really what we want to do. So the first thing, in order to actually go ahead and install this Docker image, we actually need Docker on this Raspberry Pi, right? So there are a few ways you can actually follow on this page itself. There is a link. You can actually follow this link, and this will tell you how to install Docker, frankly, but it does use a script. Okay, so frankly, I personally don't like to use a script because I don't really know the contents of that script. So what I'm going to do, rather than doing that, I'm actually going to go ahead and install Docker and get the instructions from the web page. So I'm actually going to do a Google search for install Docker on Debian, because Raspberry Pi, the Raspberry Pi OS is actually based on Debian, right? So that's exactly what we want to use. Okay, so we're going to actually follow these instructions. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to follow this to the T. I've done this several times, so just follow along with me. Now, the first thing we want to do is run this command to just make sure that Docker, any older versions of Docker that might be on the Pi are completely removed. So I'm just going to click on that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to my Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that command, and I'm going to hit enter. Right now, what that's going to really do is it's going to check if there are any dependencies or any old packages that exist on my Raspberry Pi, and if they do, it's going to actually remove them, right? So that's it just did, and there is nothing old pending on it, so it went ahead and didn't really remove anything, right? So that's great. Great, so now that we've done that, what we want to do is we're going to actually install Docker, right? So we're going to basically install Docker using its apt repository, okay? So it's really straightforward, guys. Just follow along with this tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the commands to actually install the Docker apt repository. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to go back to my Raspberry Pi. I'm going to go ahead and paste that entire command, and I'm going to hit enter. And what that's going to do is it's going to run another update, and it's going to actually get all my repositories up to where it's meant to be, correct? So that's actually what it's going to actually do. Thank you. And look, that was really quick. It actually has updated all the packages to the latest version, and now we are literally ready to install Docker, right? So now if you scroll down further, you'll actually see that the next command will install Docker and its packages. That includes Docker Compose as well, which is super handy way of running Docker. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to copy this command. I'm going to go back to my Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to paste that command over here and hit enter. Give it a Y. And now it's actually going to go ahead and install Docker, which could take about a minute or two. All right, so there we go. So now we have Docker installed on my Raspberry Pi. Now, how do we know that it successfully installed? Well, there is a little bit of a command that if you have a look at this documentation, you can actually run this small little program called Hello World, which is like the common programming program. And then you just copy that command, which is sudo docker run hello world. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to paste that command over here. Now, what that'll actually do is it will go to Docker, and it will find Hello World on the actual Docker Hub website, because it'll first look for it on my Raspberry Pi. It'll say I can't find it, and then it will go to Docker, and it will actually go ahead and pull all the packages and install Hello World on my Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And as you see, it's unable to find the image. It reaches out, pulls it, and there you go. It says hello from Docker. And that's exactly what we want. So we know that our Raspberry Pi has successfully installed Docker. And that's what this tells you. This command downloads a test image and runs it in the container. When the container runs, it prints a confirmation message and exits. And as you can see, that's exactly what it's done. It's printed our confirmation message. This message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. Great. So now that we know that, let's actually move back to installing OpenProject. Beautiful. Okay. So now that we're here, we've installed Raspberry Pi OS, and we've installed Docker as well. Now what we want to do is, this is the Docker command that we want to be working with, right? So this is the Docker command that we want to run, but we want to make sure that when we actually have the last little section, we do pull from Docker the correct version of the OpenProject application. What this tutorial is actually telling us, that we want to visit the Docker Hub page, and we want to check on Docker Hub. We want to check the latest version. Now, we don't want the dev tab, because we don't want to install the development version. We don't want to install the slim version, but we want to install the latest version, which is essentially 15.4.2. Okay, so they've essentially used 15, which is a major release, and this looks like it's recently been updated, because we've got the same one as well, right? So essentially, we want to use that one over there. So if I actually go to Docker Hub, and we want to use this one right here, and that's the one we want to pull. So now they have provided the script to run a Docker, and I'm going to go ahead and copy this command, right? I'm going to go ahead and copy it. And there are a few things that we want to replace over here. This is the IP address. This is an example IP address, right? We want to replace this IP address with the IP address of our Raspberry Pi, all right? And OpenProject HTTPS, if you are going to be connecting your OpenProject to an actual website like I have over here, I've got project.amarmash.com because my website is amarmash.com. So my subdomain is project.amarmash.com. So if that's something you want to do, you'll probably want to keep this HTTPS as true, right? But for the purpose of this project, I'm going to leave it as false. But remember that if you do want to connect it up, you want to make that true, okay? All right, great. So now let's actually go to my Raspberry Pi installation. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and type in sudo, because I definitely want to type in sudo before that. And I'm going to paste that command, okay? Now we're going to go up, all the way up here, and we're going to change the IP address. And I'm going to make this .8.154. And I believe that is the IP address of my Raspberry Pi. And I'm going to 154. 8080 is the port that it actually uses. So I'm not going to change that because this is the only application that I've got running on this Pi. So 8080 is absolutely fine. So now that we've got that command pasted over there, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And as you can see, it says unable to find the application. So the application is unable to find locally on my Raspberry Pi. It's not yet installed, of course. So what Docker is actually doing now is gone ahead, it's pulling from OpenProject, from Docker Hub. It's actually pulling from this website right here. It's actually gone to Docker Hub and it's pulling from here itself. So as you can see, that's exactly what it's doing right now. It's actually pulling version 15 and it's pulling it to my local system. So that's actually what it's going to be doing. Let's have a look. Let's break down this command. So Docker run, what this command is actually doing, it's going to run Docker and it's going to run in the background. It's going to run in daemon mode. So it's going to run in the background. It's going to basically use port 8080. So those are the ports that it uses. That's the IP address that it's going to be using, port 8080 again. We don't want to use HTTPS because I'm going to just access it locally for this test. But you can obviously, like I mentioned, you can actually make this true. This is where it's going to store all your data. This is where it's going to store all your assets. Those are the two directories. It's going to say restart unless stop. So unless I manually stop the container, it's going to always restart. So if I turn my Raspberry Pi off and I turn it on again, OpenProject will automatically run, right? And now it's going to pull from OpenProject number 15, right? So that's exactly what's happening, as you can see on my Raspberry Pi. It's pulled, it's actually downloaded all the different packages for the application, and now it's extracting all the actual separate files of the Docker application. Okay, so there we go. It's actually completed the pull and the installation, right? And now it did tell me that it downloaded a newer image for that. So what it looks like it's done, it has gone ahead and downloaded 15, but it's done in the latest of 15. All right, so in this tutorial, it does actually explain all the little commands that we actually ran for that, right? So what we can do is we can check the logs as well. I believe this would give us logs, and it could give us all the logs of what it actually did during the installation. Now, I'm not really going to go through these logs, but this is something, if you wanted to check what it's actually done, it will give you the logs, right? So that's beautiful. Now we want to just check if that Docker container is up and running, right? So that's something that we want to do. And I'm going to type in sudo docker ps/a. And that's actually going to tell me what are the different Docker container images that are running on this Raspberry Pi. And as you can see, right now I've got the container ID, which is this one right here, and that's our open project. And that's the one that's actually running. It's also got Hello World running on this Raspberry Pi. But that exited because that's not running right now, but it was running 9 minutes ago, right? It was created 9 minutes ago. It's not running at the moment. It's exited. But these are all the Docker containers that currently exist on this system, right? So beautiful. All right, that's great. So now what we want to actually do is go ahead, open a new browser window, and type in the IP address of my Raspberry Pi, 154, and the colon 8080. That's because we installed it and we can access OpenProject on port 8080 and hit enter. Now, when you do that, it's going to tell you that this is not a secure connection because we aren't really using HTTPS. Like I mentioned, it's not connected to an actual secure domain as yet. And so it's going to give you that warning, but just say continue to site. Okay, site cannot be reached. So we'll need to wait a little bit. Okay, so you'll need to give it a little bit of time, all right, after you install it, especially for the first time. If you are powering up your Raspberry Pi with a official power supply, then it would be a bit quicker, I imagine. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is type in that address again, and 8080, and as you can see, it's prompted me to sign in to OpenProject. So, as you can see, it has successfully installed OpenProject on this Raspberry Pi. Now, what you want to do when you reach this page, right, you want to create a new account. And then you can enter your username, create your first name, your last name, your email address, and you can create an account of OpenProject. And once you do that, you will actually be greeted with your page just like this. So that's exactly what I've done. I have gone ahead a few steps further and I actually put it on a domain name. You can actually easily do that using something like Cloudflare, which is what I've done. So I've actually gone to Cloudflare and I've registered with Cloudflare and I bought a domain which is amarmash.com. And I went ahead and created a subdomain and I installed Cloudflare. Now, if you do want to see a video on working at Cloudflare, you can actually have a look at some of my previous videos where I've got instructions and information on how to actually get your system up on Cloudflare, all right? But essentially, once you've actually done that and once you've actually followed all my steps, you would be able to go ahead and create an account on OpenProject and start working with OpenProject. Start putting your projects into OpenProject and keep track of your work. That's the best thing about this. And it's all running at home. It's just running on your personal computer or your Raspberry Pi sitting at home. So you don't have to worry about like paying monthly or any fees, so on and so forth, right? So this is just great for a small team, or if you're working on your own for your own business, that is excellent to actually use. Okay, so thank you guys for actually staying through this video and watching. I'd appreciate a like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, can't wait to make another one for you guys. I'll see you next time.